Hello and welcome back to A Modern Pharmacist with me, Lee Smith. Now, in this episode, I wanted to make it sort of like a thinking out loud episode for me with regards to what is modern healthcare, where is it going? And when I say that, I don't mean the integration of AI. I think that needs its own dedicated episode. But there's a lot of podcasts that I've been consuming over the past 2 to 4 weeks, and a lot of people that I interact with who aren't medically trained and have very opposing thoughts and views to me with regards to healthcare and wellness. So I just thought I'll use this next 25-30 minutes as sort of like a notepad, thinking out loud and seeing what I can come up with. And obviously, if anyone wants to interact through the comments or other means through social media, then by all means do so. But I think this is applicable for the US, the UK, any modern healthcare system. The big difference being that the UK is public funded and the majority of people have a right to treatment. Well, technically everyone does, but I'll come into a bit more of the politics in a minute. Whereas the US is more private, where they go through insurance systems, and Europe can be a mix of both. I mean, and Australia. I've got a few friends in Australia and their healthcare system seems pretty good, to be honest. But what is modern healthcare? And the reason I wanted to ask this hypothetical, not hypothetically, because I will answer it, is that when the NHS in the UK was brought out in the 40s, the landscape in terms of the people who were using it, the population was so different. And this is what I also think about, is that we always try and extrapolate data by looking at certain populations. So, for example, we will say the modern population is sick with regards to X. What did they do back in the 1960s? And you can't really extrapolate data too much from certain decades in life, because in the 1960s, for example, the majority of people would have walked, used public transport if that was available. They had jobs which was more labor, there was less benefits. So you've got a more active population by baseline already. So does their health inequalities already account for the fact that they are physically active? We can't extrapolate a lot of things, is my point. But I feel as though the system that we've got within the UK, and probably that's in place for the US as well. Let's not beat around the bush. The fact that it's private doesn't mean it doesn't follow the same principles, in that they are both reactive in terms of someone is doing a normal day-to-day life, they become sick through a chest infection, a broken ankle, a heart attack. Okay, we will take you in, we will treat you, and we are very good at that. And modern healthcare, when you look at the reactive side of things, is very effective. We can treat the majority of conditions and diseases and get people back to their baseline. But that is the issue. Their baseline is not optimal and far from what we should be aiming for with the tools and information that we have within the modern era. And that is what I mean by what is modern healthcare and where should it be. In my opinion, we should always be striving for prevention. Now that we can clearly see certain lifestyles and certain things lead to a particular chronic condition, why not try and eradicate that before it gets to the point where we need to treat it? I think I would hope that everyone agrees on that, because it is pretty much common sense. But the reason why I'm bringing where is it going, I feel like we're sort of, it's unanimous on where modern healthcare is. It's still reactive and it should be using the data that it has and all the resources to go into a preventative era. In terms of politics, do I want to discuss that in this episode? Let's touch upon it. Is that in the UK, for example, a lot of people who do not pay into the healthcare system, who abuse their health actively and do not respect a lot of the people within the system, usually get the treatment first. I've got a lot of family members, friends, even myself included. I had a consultation the other day where all my medical information was incorrect. But the system, in my opinion, is treating the wrong people and is no longer fit for modern purposes. That is the brutal, blunt point. In terms of where is it going, now, how I wanted this to pan out, or the thought I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, was that we have a lot of people now who are classed as biohackers, and a lot of people who would consider themselves well versed within wellness and medicine. And this is the area where I feel as though we need to sort of rein people back a bit. So it's a hard one in terms of you. If you have a biohacker, for example, I'm not going to name any in particular because there's quite a few of them out there, but they will have a look at certain things. I am looking at like the 1%. It might be methylated B vitamins. It might be increasing their dose of slow magnesium. It could be all these little things. And they're advising this to a mass population. But if you actually look at their audiences and the people that usually take up the advice, they're usually well, physically well, they are biologically well, they are doing quite a lot of things in the correct way possible before they are taking on this advice. They are not already diagnosed with COPD, heart failure. They do not have genetic histories of X, Y, and Z. So if you say to someone, well, actually, you are already running marathons, may be worthwhile taking a bit more magnesium, might help you sleep, may improve muscle function and reduce cramping. They may go, okay, that's great. Oh, actually, I found a really beneficial outcome from that with limited side effects or downsides. My issue is that that is a very small minority of the population. And in the large majority of people, you are then diverting their time and energy, because that is one thing that we need to address, is that there is a perfect plan. Well, there isn't a perfect plan in terms of no one has formulated one. But if we were, we only have a finite amount of time, money, and resources to utilize on our health, well-being, business, everything in life. We can't be in all places at once and doing all the things that we want to. So, in my opinion, if you are diverting everyone's attention away from improving the sleep, improving exercise, improving dietary compliance, that and going to these 1%, which is not going to offset the risk, then it is going to negatively impact their health. And I always think people are always very much against healthcare. It's quite a funny thing, actually. From what I find in healthcare at the moment, is you have a group of people who are for medicine, medication, treatment, and you have the ones who are completely as far away as you can be. But then, ironically, I always ask them, and always do see them in the end. If they have chest pain, they have a chest infection, they have a broken ankle, they always tend to end up with an A&E in emergency services. My position on medicine, healthcare, treatment is that we should all be doing the fundamentals. We should be doing our diet, exercise, sleep, emotional well-being, something I've put a bit more effort into. And that is just silly things in terms of like not being too negative on yourself. There's a lot of things that you can do as a basic. And then in my case, for example, I have a genetic form of diabetes. I have genetic traits for cardiovascular disease. I am not naive in the fact that I may require pharmacological treatments in the future. And if I were to turn that down, then that would just be ridiculous. It would. There's no other way around it. So that is how I use medicine, and that's how I think everyone should use it, is do everything that you can, and then if needed, and the evidence is there and it's safe, use the medication to then enhance your life. We've done it. Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with that. I think it's hard to dispute that's how medicine and modern healthcare should be used. But like I said, you will get a lot of people who are so far removed and they say, "Oh, I would never do that. I wouldn't give my kid antibiotics. I wouldn't take antibiotics. I wouldn't do this." You have to, I feel like these people are just not educated enough. And that is my concern with modern healthcare, is that the health system, because it's stuck in its ways with its reactive treatment, and a lot of the professionals, we are, not me personally, but a lot of people in the system are to blame themselves as well, is that they haven't kept up to date with modern forms of treatment and wellness trends, so that they are then divergent to other people who aren't qualified in these areas. They are just podcasters. They are generally healthy people who have found that if I have 4 eggs a day instead of 3 eggs, it's more beneficial for me. So for everyone out there who's got, I don't know, low testosterone or heart disease, have an extra egg and it's going to do you the world of good. And they will be more likely to take their advice because of, one, how they look, and two, how they respect them. And that is where I fear modern healthcare is going, is that it's going to be led by these group of people. Whether they are well intentioned, I do not know, because a lot of them do have supplements to sell. Again, supplements, I think it's something I want to look into, well, do an episode on. But I'm not saying that there are supplements that don't work. I take omega-3 with vitamin D, but I feel like a lot of people are very capitalistic on this because it's not regulated, and there's so much disparity between certain brands and whether you actually need it. And again, it's not the idea of using a supplement. I think it's just a fundamental principle of why people use it. They think it is a shortcut to getting good health. So, oh, okay, well, if I take this multivitamin, it means that I don't need to have a whole food diet today. And that is the thing that I think probably gets to me more, and why the modern population and modern approach to healthcare is completely warped, is because there is no shortcut when it comes to health. If it takes you 10, 15 years developing cardiovascular disease, you are not going to reverse it naturally within 2 weeks, 4 weeks. It's going to take a few years before you can see the benefits of you having improved your physical fitness and your diet. But that's where I do see with modern healthcare, is that it's going to be led by the wrong people. And another reason as to why this popped into my head was, I've been speaking to a few people who are taking, how do I put it? They're taking peptides, and they, I don't really engage in the conversation. And I say this from a point of view of, you've got to pick your battles in life. If there are people out there who are telling me that their bloods are fine, which is good, but then they're on a lot of medication, so they're bound to be fine. And they just can't draw the conclusion that the reason they are in good biochemical health is because they've been helped by 3 or 4 pharmacological agents. It's not the fact that they have done it through natural lifestyle, diet, all these other interventions. So I pick and choose where I have my battles, because I feel as though there's a lot of uneducated people out there, and a lot of people who maybe listening to this will hopefully resonate with the fact that there's just a lot of people who are out of their depth. And when I say that, I mean, I do a lot of DIY. I do a lot of building. That's what my dad specializes in. He's a landscaper, builder, all them things. I've been doing guttering on the house. I've been digging footings and building all these other things. That doesn't mean I would be competent and would not act solely to build someone else an extension and do all their housework, because I just feel like there are better people out there. That's not to say I'm not good at what I'm doing in terms of DIY, but I can know my limits when it comes to competence, where there's a lot of people when it comes to healthcare and wellness. They just all of a sudden have developed this uncanny ability to develop a medicine pharmacy degree within 2 weeks of reading the paper, which is unbelievable, to be honest, when I think about it. But yeah, I don't really engage in this conversation. So this was through my wife Jess. They were speaking to them. They said they were on a certain peptide, and they said, I'm taking it 3 times a week. So Jess was like, well, it's normally just once a week. He said, well, yeah, you don't want to keep getting too much of a spike, so we just do it 3 times a week. And when Jess told me that, it's like, oh, did we skip pharmacokinetics and dynamics in university for like a good 18 months, 2 years of the degree? And it makes you question a lot of these things. You're sitting there going, oh no, that makes absolutely no sense. But when someone says it so convincingly, you think, oh, does it have any standing? It doesn't, by the way. Pharmacodynamics and kinetics, go and have a look at them. There's loads of compartmental models. There's, depending on like first order, second order, elimination kinetics. There's so many things to it. There's so many things that this person doesn't know, and they are blindly taking things. And I don't, maybe fortunate enough for them that they have been developing a lot of beneficial effects from using this peptide. It may come out in 4 weeks' time that they have horrendous side effects, and then God knows what they were blaming on. But my point is that a lot of these people are so they're not convincing to me. I don't give them the time today. I just think it's a waste of time. But they're convincing to themselves and a lot of people around them that this is what's happening at the moment, is that people are building these mini communities and just giving themselves drugs and peptides and medication and supplements. And who's going to clean up with that? Because I keep saying it all the time. I don't feel like in the UK, for example, the National Health Service is going to be around for much longer. It can't be. It's being greatly abused on multiple levels, whether that be mainly patients. Let's be honest. A lot of the patients that you speak to, I've been running a few clinics the last 2, 3 weeks, and I've been doing it for metabolic health. So I've been doing it, so picking type 2 diabetic patients or pre-diabetic patients. And I love doing, and the reason I've been doing them face to face is because when you do it on the phone, like I've said before, I could be 30 stone and saying, oh, well, I go to the gym. But I love doing it in person because you get these people who say that they can't do X, Y, and Z, and you're there in front of them. Obviously, I'm not overweight, I'm in decent shape, so they don't really have much of an excuse. And I've been running them for the past 2 to 3 weeks in person, and there was one person who I've booked in twice now. First time she didn't attend and apologized and said, oh no, definitely will be there next week. So I went again, went to my clinic. She didn't turn up. No, sorry, no, I'm not turning up. And that's where the NHS gets abused. And I see it every single day. DNA did not attend the appointments. It costs the NHS, obviously, my wage, the GP's wage, any resources that we've put aside. And that is the thing when something is free. I mean, a classic example is if you ever went to a all you can drink bar back in the day, people don't just get a pint, they'll go and get a pint, a shot, I don't know, a cocktail all in one go, probably not even drink the pint, leave it there because it's free. And that's how people treat the health system, is because it's there. Well, why not go and abuse it? But also abuse from a staffing level as well. There's a lot of people who are in the NHS who shouldn't be employed in the first place. It makes no sense. And yeah, that there's so many things I could go into as to why I don't believe the health system's gonna be here in the UK. Probably in the next definitely in the next decade. I would be very surprised if this is still standing in any capacity. I feel like the only way is to make it private. And I used to feel like, oh well, I'm gutted if it ever went private, because if I ever need it for anything else in the future, but anything I do now in terms of dentistry, whether it be bloods, whether it be medication, if I needed it, I always go private anyway. So I actually don't use the NHS, even though I pay heavily towards it and I work for it to try and save up money, which is the ironic thing. But I don't even know when I went on this. The NHS is not going to be around for a long period of time because of patients. So yeah, so who's going to clean up the mess from all these little communities of wellness gurus that are saying, oh, have, I don't know, goat's liver and it's going to cure your cancer, whatever it is. I don't know. And I just, I do worry about the next 5 years, whether there is just going to be a massive plume of smoke with regards to all these supplements and peptides. I do want to also state out there, because a lot of people think as soon as a health professional goes against a supplement or a peptide, it's because it's not regulated, you're not getting money for it. I don't get paid for prescribing certain things anyway. The NHS gets a sub payment sometimes if you meet certain guidelines, but I don't get paid by advising or not advising. And the only reason I say to be cautious with these things is that, yes, I don't know, melanotan 2 or SS31, all these peptides could be really beneficial, and it could be something that finds its way into treatment in the future. I mean, one point is a lot of the things that are being used as peptides were used by the pharmaceutical industry and probably have been a failed phase 2 or 3, or just there wasn't enough hype there from the pharmaceutical company that they didn't go down that route for whatever reason. But my point is that until there's enough data there, you just, I think from a common sense point of view, why would you put something into your body, not even through your mouth, which is the most protected route, putting it as an injection where it bypasses the most vital organ when it comes to protecting your body from foreign substances, which is the liver. It bypasses first pass metabolism, which all of these wellness gurus, I can't even say the name, will have no clue about because they don't know anything to do with pharmacodynamics or kinetics. They just know if I take this for this amount of time, I felt good. So that is the regime I'm going off. Or they've read one paper where it's got a meta-analysis or a systematic review, and it's like, oh wow, it's so compelling. But they've not got any real life experience. Is that I was trying to think of an analogy as to how I treat peptides, and it would be I've got to think of something like a car. Surely it's got to be a car analogy. Oh yeah, okay. A good car analogy is I'm massively into my cars. Always been a fan of certain brands, whether it be Bentley, Ferrari, Aston Martin, Porsche, all these key brands. The Chinese car brands come over, so you've got BYD, Armada, I think. Who else have you got? BYD is the main one that's taken over, and we were in the process of changing cars, and we were getting rid of one, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna have a look into these BYDs just a bit more because obviously you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. They're still got a lot of power. Are they worthwhile looking into? And the same thing, there's not enough evidence for me to invest. I think it was 45, 50,000 into a BYD Seal 7, I think it was Sea Lion 7 or Seal 7. But there wasn't enough evidence there. Whereas I would happily put that 50, 60 grand into Porsche or, and see what I get you there. But my point is that you go for things that have heritage, they've got experience, they've got all this evidence in there. It may come out in 5 years' time that the BYD company are still able to produce really high performance cars with really good build quality inside. They have an extended manufacturer's warranty for 8 years because nothing goes wrong with them. And anyone who's bit the bullet and had to go now and I've got it for a fraction of the price, well, that's the gamble they take. But when it comes to my health and body and anyone else, I don't feel as though you should take that gamble until there is enough on the table for you to go, if I take this, there are similar people who have taken it to me. There's about 1,000 people in that study who would match me. And that is something I would like to say is a study doesn't mean it's applicable to you. A study could be that a blood pressure lowering study was done in people who had cardiovascular disease and type 2 diabetes. That probably doesn't apply to you. So their findings may not be extrapolated in the same fashion as it would be for someone who has 8% body fat, who is very insulin sensitive, doesn't have any issues with metabolic health. Again, you've got to weigh up what is pertinent to you. And that is a big, massive thing, which obviously a lot of these people who would advise on such treatments outside of a medical setting are not very holistic at all, which is something I've included a lot into my practice. It's a lot what we do in our company with Jess as well. I feel as though we are very holistic. We try and see everything from the treatment side, genetics, lifestyle, emotional well-being, everything that you can think of. We try and put into context as much as you can because that is what you've got to do at the end of the day to get the most out of your treatment. And another point, going back to all these people that are greatly misinformed. I mean, you only have to spend 5 minutes speaking with them and you actually understand how little they know. And it's just all for the wrong reasons. I've actually been reading Simon Squibb's book. I've had it for, I want to say, it was when it was launched because he come to Liverpool and we went to meet him, got it signed. And I didn't read it straight away. And I thought, Joe, I'm going to leave it until I feel like the time's right. And that time is now. And I've been reading it. I'm on the 3rd chapter and it's all about purpose. And that is a massive thing because even he said at the very beginning, it was just about making clients money for his company called Fluid, where they started generating big turnovers. But a lot of people left the company because they had a lack of purpose. And that is what a lot of people who are advising people incorrectly do not have a deep down purpose. It's just financial gain and clout, which is different to me because I genuinely do. I mean, I'm sitting here on a Sunday evening speaking to a camera for nothing, but to try and help people understand what's going on in the world. I have no affiliations or reasons to hold back. This is just genuinely out there to hopefully give someone a bit of guidance and help them in the right direction. But these people, by the way, have not got any professional bodies. Now, that doesn't mean that they are not trustworthy, nor does it mean that they are not competent in the advice that they give with relative interest to their area. But there's just another layer of security added when, for example, a pharmacist, a doctor, a nurse gives that advice, because if anything goes wrong, they come through to us, and there's other governing bodies that have got to stick the nose in. And there was a very famous case. I don't know whether it was Liverpool or the northwest of the UK, but basically a person was acting as a nurse, aesthetics practitioner, and was given lip fillers, and I don't know whether there's the nasal labia fold here, so by your nose. I've done aesthetics, went on the training, done lip fillers for quite a bit, done Botox on probably like 50, 60 patients. It's not something I do now, but I know what it does and how to do it. And if you are injecting within this little triangle to the right or left of your nose, if you go into there, you need to draw back and aspirate, because it's highly vascularized. So if you've hit an artery and you're going into there with a filler, you can obviously clog it up. You have a thrombus, you can shut off the blood supply to that side of the nose, you can kill it and have a necrosis of the nose. That's exactly what happened with one of these patients, is that the person in question injected into the artery, and then obviously she ended up losing, I think, the tip of her nose, and there was a lot of necrosis there. It turned out she wasn't a nurse at all. She was a beautician, I believe, but she had no governing body, so she just up and moved on to the next city and set it up again, which, I mean, I just think's absolutely ridiculous, is that we're living in this world where our hands are tied to such a large extent, with everyone else who doesn't have a clue and able to run around and do what the hell they want. But yeah, I think, looking at the time, and now I've got a couple of minutes to try and wrap this up, but modern healthcare, where is it going without the use of AI in terms of a generalistic overview? I feel as though healthcare is being taken away from the healthcare setting. I feel as though people are less inclined to speak to people like myself, who have many years of training experience and have then gone into areas such as this preventative health, but have such a good background already in physiology, pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, that yes, if it's a new concept, I don't know, it could be like a new biomarker, cystatin C, that you've never used for kidney function, because you've got such a good foundation, you can pick that up, and with a good level of interpretation, you can then put it into context. Whereas someone who's just read a paper, yes, you can understand cystatin C, but do you know the wider implications? Do you know what's going to happen with pathophysiology or other interactions with other treatments if you read that paper? The answer is no. And if you are, then why do we do such an extensive degree with years in practice and big exams? I just see the healthcare system being led by uneducated, uninformed people, not in the healthcare system, and it's just like community led. Where they go if we have a privatized health system, or where do they go in America? Do they just refuse treatment? That is the interesting. If you are from America and you are listening, it'd be interesting to find out. And I think that is the end of this episode for whatever it was. I hope it was a bit of insight. It was just genuinely me throwing down any ideas that popped into my head for the past 30 minutes. It wasn't planned. And yeah, do I think we're getting any closer to any clarity? I don't feel it. I don't feel like we are. And like I said, I'm fearful of the next 5 years when it comes to health, wellness, and all these trends and all these well-informed people out there who don't have any degrees or governing bodies behind them. But as always, thanks for listening and watching. It was for informational purposes only. It wasn't medical advice. If you are looking for medical advice, if I can say it right, go and get it from someone who's medically trained and not some lad off the street. And I will see you in the next one.